Welcome, dear friends, for today's special lecture by Swami Tadananda ji. Swami Tadananda is presently the head of our Center Ramakrishna Mission in Fiji Islands. And just a few words about him, that he joined the center, the order in 1991 in Bangalore, and then was at Belur for quite a few years, then was transferred to Devghar, where Ramakrishna Mission runs a residential school. Then he had his sannyasa, the monastic vows, in 2001, and was also then working at the Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture in Gold Park. He also served in Ramakrishna Mutt and Mission Centers in Hyderabad, and then was at Sydney, Australia, and presently since 2008 he has been stationed in Ramakrishna Mission Fiji. So he has been touring United States and Canada for a specific purpose, that is to spread globally, find out the ways to spread digitally in an easy accessible way all the authentic message of Vedanta and so forth for the modern people from different walks of life. So I requested him as he was coming that will you be able to give a talk, and then he readily agreed. So let us now listen to him. Here is Swami Tadananda from Ramakrishna Mission, Fiji. Please, Swamiji.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Respected Maharajji and dear devotees and friends, thank you Maharaj for your welcome, and I am happy to have this opportunity to share a few ideas on the subject of mantra sadhana. As you can see, I'll be using this screen, so I'm not sure if those at the back are able to see. Otherwise, there's a lot of chairs here, you can move in closely. Yeah, please come closer, it'll be easier. So, in today's talk, I propose to discuss and share with you some ideas on what are mantras, where should we get the mantras from, what is the power in a mantra, some idea on how it works, the practice of mantra sadhana or japa, how we should do it, what are the effects of that, and then if time permits I will share some guidance from the teachings of Holy Mother on what she had to say about mantras. But at the outset I would like to say that those who are initiated have received a mantra and definite instructions from your Guru. Those are the things that you will follow. What I will present to you is some general idea. If it helps you to understand what that sadhana is like, gives you a little bit more understanding and more inspiration, then that will be nice. But please, you'll have to follow the specific instructions that have been given by your Guru. So, the word mantra comes from Sanskrit, mananat trayate iti mantra. It is that something, that mystic formula given by the spiritual teacher. When we contemplate upon it with great concentration, love, and devotion, it has got a special effect of transforming us, uplifting our mind, purifying our mind, lifting our level of consciousness from this gross plane to a higher spiritual plane, where we have a different spiritual experience or experience of a different spiritual reality. So it is something that will transform us. That is what we are trying to do. So when we sit down for mantra or take up the spiritual discipline, now and then you have to check whether that transformation is taking place. If not, there could be some obstacles and some areas where you have to pay attention to. We'll discuss about those things also. So it's something, it's a wonderful thing. Just to think that our spiritual teachers say, Japat Siddhi. Japa means repetition of the mantra. Merely, simply by repetition of the mantra, one can attain to spiritual perfection, spiritual realization. Nothing else. And it makes you think there must be something very, very special in that mantra. It seems to be a couple of words. You are not expected to even understand it. But by practicing it as directed by the spiritual teacher, it has a wonderful effect that it transforms us, liberates us from this body-mind consciousness and gives us a spiritual experience. If you understand it, then maybe we do it with a lot more devotion and sincerity. But like a person who is sick, he goes to a doctor, the doctor diagnoses his disease and gives him a medicine. He doesn't explain the chemical composition and everything, but he gives you very particular instructions. Take this 3 times a day, complete the course, and as you do so, the medicine begins to work. Whether you know or not, the medicine still works. But if you were a scientist and you knew how it worked, maybe you will not stop the medicine in the middle of the course, you will complete the thing. That's why a little bit of understanding gives us a bit more seriousness and we know what we are trying to do and not simply be complacent that I'm just doing my repetitions, but I'm not now and then taking a stock as any improvement or growth is happening or not. So, mantras are not different from the aspect of divinity that is what is called our chosen ideal, Ishta Devata. Sri Ramakrishna used to teach Nam, Nami, Abhed. Name, Nam means name. Nami means the deity or that aspect of God which is named. Abhed means there's no difference. One should not think that the mantra is one and God is another, but they are identical. And their two are related. For example, if you take the name of somebody that you know, immediately in your mind that image comes. Or if that same person comes, the name of that person flashes in your mind. So they are interrelated. We might not have the vision of that particular aspect of God, but definitely by repeating the mantra which is in our control, that vision can happen. We'll explain a little bit later how that sort of happens according to my understanding. But mostly a mantra comes from a spiritual source. That source is called Guru, spiritual teacher. You cannot simply read a mantra from some book and say, I've got the mantra. Yes, you have got the mantra, but then you might have to awaken it yourself through your own spiritual power. But if at the head of a spiritual tradition, there is a great sadhaka, a realized soul, or incarnation of goddess in our cases, they do tremendous amount of spiritual austerities. And with the power of that spiritual austerities and realization, they awaken those mantras. These are living mantras. and they have a tremendous amount of spiritual potency. So the power that they accumulate through the sadhana, they inject it into the mantras, and then those mantras are transferred from one generation to the other through a succession, which is called Guru Parampara, from one Guru to another to another. It's all the time maintained as a living mantra. Just like you might, as a student of science, know that fire and light is present in a piece of wood. But just by saying that, repeating that doesn't bring out the fire. The teacher will say you have to take 2 pieces of wood, and your sadhana would be that you will have to keep on rubbing, not once or twice, but you keep on doing until it ignites. There will be some smoke, some spark, and there's a fire, it gives out light, it gives out heat. Now it's burning. But another person who wants to light his piece of wood, instead of going through the same process, if he takes it to the first person and say, can you please, out of your grace, ignite my piece of wood? And of course, your piece of wood has to be dry. Otherwise, it will not ignite. So you have to be mentally ready for it. And then with very little effort, that fire is transmitted. And that burns. And you benefit from it. You cook your meal, you light up, remove the darkness, and then the same is transmitted to the next one and next one. This succession through which the spiritual power is transmitted is called Guru Parampara. Remember, it's not just the words are given across. There is a power that is just like light and heat is a power, energy that is being transmitted. That is what we try to get when we approach a spiritual teacher. But you have to be careful that you choose a spiritual teacher where that living, burning fire is there. So anyone and everyone cannot become a guru. And you cannot have a mass initiation or diksha or something. There's a special process. It has its due sanctity. The spiritual teacher takes the responsibility of the student on his head. It's not just giving mantras and forgetting about that. It's a two-way thing. And actually, there's a lot of responsibility in the sense that when the spiritual teacher gives the mantra, he also takes something back to himself. And most of the time, some of the karma, that is of the disciple, goes into the teacher and he works it out in his own body. He knows that beforehand, when he gives this divine mantra, that he will also have to take some of the karma on and work on his body. We see in our organization, our president and vice presidents, in very good health, once they start giving the Diksha mantra, after some time you see various diseases come. But they never complain. And that's why the disciple has that tremendous love and reverence that he as somebody unconditionally has come forth and help him in the spiritual journey. But the Guru that you see is not that person there. Really, the Divine Lord, Infinite Lord, Lord of the universe, He is the real Guru. Sri Ramakrishna would say repeatedly, Satchidananda alone is the Guru. The Lord of the universe, the Supreme Being, the Divine Mother, she is the real Guru. The person through whom that mantra comes is the channel. Just like Sri Ramakrishna would say, if it rains on the roof and the water comes down the downpipe, at the end of the downpipe that might be a face of a tiger or an elephant. A child would look and think that the water is coming out of the mouth of the tiger, but the elders grown up know that it's coming from the roof. It's just that outlet is through this particular human form. So yet still you have a personal relationship. And you should have intense faith in the mantra and the instructions that are given to you. Should not read too many big books and think you're over smart and that you will do in your own way. Sometimes it happens. We come across devotees who will come to us and say, Swamiji, so and so time I received a mantra from some person. I did my japa, but it didn't happen. Very impatient. Doesn't have the patience to see, let it happen naturally. So and then I chanced upon somebody else who happened to come along, some floating guru or some Swami, and I got another mantra. I practiced that also. And that was not happening. But I then combined the two mantras and formed a third one. This is not happening. Will you give me one also? So we see this is not how it is done. There is a science behind it. You have to have intense faith in the teachings of the Guru. And once you get it, then you forget about anything else. Sri Ramakrishna would tell in very simple ways. A person who wants to get some water out of the ground digs a well in his courtyard. If he digs a little bit and he comes across some stones, if he stops digging there and he starts digging elsewhere, again he comes across some rocks. And if he stops digging there and goes to a third place, he'll never get any water, he'll get a lot of holes in his courtyard only. So, perseverance, patience and perseverance is the way. Once the teacher has identified your chosen ideal, we'll talk about that a little later, you have to set your mind and heart on that and close all things aside. That is the way to success. So, there's a fable about how a pearl is formed. The oyster lives on the bottom of the ocean, but it wants to form a pearl. And somehow it understands that on a very auspicious time, when a particular star is on the ascendant, it has to come from the bottom of the seabed to the surface of the ocean, open itself up, and try to catch a drop of water at that particular auspicious junction. Once it catches the drop, it will close itself and dive deep down, and using that drop of water, it fashions out a beautiful pearl. Of course, we know that really a sand grain or something gets into the oyster and that irritates, and it sort of forms the pearl from within. But this is a beautiful fable. So a person who is seeking spiritual illumination has to make that effort to come from the bottom of the ocean and open itself to receive that grace. And it has to come at an auspicious time. So he must know when his mind is ready to receive it. That hankering is there. Once he gets that drop, which is going to be the seed of his spiritual illumination, then it shuts itself down and dives deep into the bottom of the ocean, and through its own internal processing, some transformation, it fashions out a very beautiful pearl of self-realization. So that is how a devotee, wishing to have a spiritual illumination, having the desire, makes that effort to receive grace. And once he gets that mantra, then he closes down, forgets about the whole world, and through his own sadhana, that pearl doesn't form within a day or two. Through practice and practice, the pearl grows, and eventually it has got something very, very precious. So that's how Sri Ramakrishna explains beautifully. Now, we understood that the deity of the mantra is called the chosen ideal, Ishta Devata. You don't choose it yourself. Sometimes people have a fancy because you have been brought up in a family where a particular god has been worshipped and you like him. You think that is my chosen ideal. Okay, and you think I will look for a guru who will give me that mantra for that. We see in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. That's why we pick a lot of nice little suggestions and tips. Once there was this conversation going on about the greatness of Ganesha and how Ganesha was so devoted to his mother and all those wonderful things. And one of the disciples who was there, maybe not initiated at that time, suddenly says, "Oh, I love Ganesha, that is my chosen ideal." Sri Ramakrishna looked at him and said, No, Ganesha is not your ideal. Your chosen ideal is Shiva. So the Guru decides. And how he doesn't decide is not just your fancy. He understands the mind of the disciple. The relationship between the Guru and the disciple is not something that is accidental. That some Swami was passing through and you happened to meet him and you asked him and he was gracious and he gave the mantra. No, that's another spiritual mystery. We find another incident in the life of Holy Mother. Two boys, young boys went from Calcutta to Jairambati. And one of them asked Holy Mother for the mantra. Will you please initiate me? The mother thought about it and then said, look, your friend is there. I will initiate you if he agrees to this. The boy thought, what has my friend to do with this? I am asking mother for initiation. Why do I need his approval? Anyway, since the mother said, so he went to his friend and said, look, I requested mother for Diksha. She has asked me to get your approval. Will you please give me approval? So the other friend thought about it, said, okay. So he went to mother and said, yes, he has agreed. The mother initiated him the next day. After initiation, one day he asked mother, why was it so necessary that you would not initiate me and need his approval? Mother said, in your last life, he was your guru. Now you want me to be your guru, so therefore you have to get his consent. So the relationship between the guru and disciple is life after life. And in this life you'll meet. So you don't really have to go searching for him. If you are really hungry for God realization, then the law of the spiritual world is that where there is a demand, the supply will come himself. So God himself opens the channel and provides those things. I'm mentioning these things because many times in the Western world we have people who come across with all different ideas and think that they are going to decide and what's the mantra, what's my chosen ideal, that I'll take this only when all these conditions will be fulfilled. No, the laws of the spiritual world are slightly different. Now, most mantras start with this Shabda Brahman, universal sound Om. And it's a formula. There's this Om, and there is another sound normally there. It's called the Bija mantra, the seed mantra. Then some name of a deity is there. That deity is your chosen ideal. Once you've got it, that's it. No window shopping, no changing. And at the end there will be a little prayer or something. This is the mantra given by a guru. So, Sri Ramakrishna explains in another little story form. Imagine there's a river. In the river there's a big piece of log right in the bottom. It's dark, you can't see it, but you want to reach it. So you'll dive. You might be lucky to reach it, but most likely that you might not get it. But if somebody had dived into the river and tied a chain to it, and that chain was up on the bank, and you approached him and he says, look here, I give this chain to you in your hand. All you need to do is take this and you dive into the water, but hold this and link by link with that, you keep on going, ultimately you will reach that. So if we think that in deep inside there is this divine entity which is our Atman or Paramatman God, we want to reach it. Can somebody give us a link by which, holding on to which, I can dive deep into myself and come in touch with the divine essence of what we really are? So if somebody can give us that chain, then that's a great spiritual help. Otherwise, we are left to our own devices only. So in this mantra, there is this Om and a Bija mantra. Om, you will understand, is the Shabda Brahman, the sound form of God. God and His name in the most universal form. Swami Vivekananda explains this word from a phonetic point of view, that it has 3 syllables, A, U, Ma, M. The A sound is produced when you open your mouth, A, and M sound, M, is produced when you have closed your mouth, and U is the rolling of the impulse on the sound board, A, U, M, mouth is closing. And in this, between this closing of the mouth and opening of the mouth, all sounds, irrespective of any language, is produced through this mechanism of some combination and permutation of sound production. So, A, U, M, Om is the most universal sound that can be produced. As such, it is the best symbol of the most universal being. But it's not just from that point of view. Sri Ramakrishna says a yogi, when the mind has become purified, very subtle, he hears this sound constantly arising from the navel upwards. Normally, when you create a sound, you need to take something and hit it. There's an impact and a sound vibration comes out. But this particular sound is called anahata dhvani. Hatha means hitting. Anahata means without hitting. Dhvani means a sound. Constantly it is rising from our navel chakra upwards. And we hear that when not through this physical ears, but this subtle mind, just like we have the divine eyes that Arjuna saw, likewise the divine subtle ears will open up and you'll hear that sound constantly happening within you. Those are some signs that you are progressing in this spiritual life. The second part is the Bija Mantra. And that Bija Mantra is particular to that chosen ideal or the deity. So different deities have different Bija Mantras. For example, the Bij Mantra of Ganesha is Gam. So Om Gam Ganeshaya Namah. Of Mother Durga is Om Dum Durgaya Namah. Normally that Bij Mantra doesn't have much meaning in the conventional sense. It's not a word that we use. It's not a human word basically. It comes from a divine plane, another plane. And then the particular aspect of the deity, Ganesha, Shiva, that we are familiar with in the picture or the image, and Namah is a prayer. So here is a formula at top. So let us see. So you have this Om, alright, and then you have the Bija Mantra. Now how do I do? We'll say something like this because we really do not know what's the meaning behind it. Okay. And then it goes down to, it becomes more materialized or grossified, so to say. And a particular aspect of the deity is there. So, okay. Okay, so something like that. That's your chosen ideal, that form you'll visualize in your own, in the center of your heart. And there's a mantra, Nama means prostration, so I surrender to you and all these things. So this belongs to the highest plane of consciousness, so to say. At a slightly lower level, it comes at the Bija Mantra. Then the name and form world comes where we can see a name and a form, and this is the chain, so to say. If we see this world and understand it as a world of vibrations, energy, okay, so everything is vibration. We are living in this world. I'm speaking to you, I'm transmitting some sound vibrations which goes through your ears and it vibrates, it becomes some electrical signal in your mind, something is there and you say these are the words and you have some meaning behind it. Light also a vibration. So everything in this world is, we are living in an ocean of vibration. But here it's a gross world of vibration. And these vibrations become finer and finer and finer as it go higher and higher and higher. Swami Vivekananda explains in the introduction to Raja Yoga using these two terms, Akasha and Prana. The sum total of all matter in the universe is Akasha. The sum total of all energy in this world is Prana. And this Akasha and Prana act on each other. When it works at this human level, then we see this material world of matter, bodies, plants, trees and all that. But this is not the whole of it. This is what we perceive through the 5 sense organs that we have. And since we are all in the same frequency, so to say, the human frequency, we are seeing alike. Here and now, in here and now. Okay, let's put that. The reality, God, whatever we're seeking is here and now in one sense. For example, in this particular room, there are so many TV stations or radio stations. You bring on a TV, switch it on, turn it to a particular frequency or channel, the news, music and everything comes. You switch to another channel, the first one disappears and the second one appears. You change to another third channel, the first, it disappears and the next one comes. So, you receive or perceive that channel to which you are tuned to. But they are all here and now. Likewise, the human mind is on a particular frequency. And when we wake up, then the waking frequency sort of becomes activated, and your eyes can see, your ears can hear, and all those type of things. But if somebody goes to sleep, then this physical world is there for others, but for the person who has gone to sleep, it has disappeared. His frequency has changed. Maybe he's in a dream world, and he creates his own dream world. He's a dreamer, he's eating, drinking, and all those things happening there. Maybe he goes into deep sleep. That also has disappeared. And in the deep sleep, he has absolutely no idea of who he is. He's man or woman, young or old, doctor, engineer, everything is gone. See? And we go through that every day. We are in the waking state, we are in a dream state, and we are in the deep sleep state. Now, the great scientists who studied themselves, not the outside stars and planets and all those things, the material world, they dive deep into their own laboratory, the mind, and went beyond these three states, and they said there is a fourth state called the Turiya state. Turiya means the fourth, relative to the first two, three. And they say, my friends, if you get in there, you discover something most wonderful. That realm is a realm of pure consciousness. It is of the nature of infinite existence, means it's immortal, it's never born, it never dies. And that's our true nature actually. We think we are born as a body and we die as a body, but as the soul or spirit or consciousness, we are never born, we never die. It is of the nature of infinite knowledge. Imagine absolutely not an iota of ignorance in there. It is of the nature of absolute bliss. It is the source of all beauty. It's a source of all purity. It's a source of all strength and all the wonderful excellences you can think of. That is there right inside you. But the mind is projected outside. And therefore it goes out through the senses, and it thinks happiness is in those things, I should possess those things, that will give me joy and this and that, and this deluded mind constantly is running outside. So the first thing that we have to understand, either by getting knocked around by this world or by learning from the other experiences or the realizations of others, is that whatever we are seeking for is inside. It's not out there. First lesson. Once that has been identified, then you will ask somebody, can somebody help me in that direction? I have understood that the God that I am seeking for me is within me. And you look for some teacher. And some teacher who said, yes, I also know that, but since you are desirous of that, I will help you out. And that's the spiritual teacher. And what he gives you this mantra. But this is not simply some words. It's imbued with a living fire. Power that can ignite and very quickly transform your mind, purify your mind. Sri Ramakrishna says the same mind which is purified through sadhana, Shuddha Man, becomes a purified intellect, Shuddha Buddhi. And again, when it's totally purified, it's the same as the Atman. Pure mind, pure intellect, and pure Atman are the one and the same thing. It's there inside us, here and now. What has happened is we have lost contact with it. And we have identified ourselves with this body, with a little ego. And I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, this is my identity. You give your big CV, you give your biodata, and I possess these things in the world and I enjoy. That's how we are born and we live and we die. And constantly Mother Nature is trying to teach us, no, I have nothing to do with you. The happiness that you are seeking for is not in me, it's inside you. The knowledge that you are seeking for is inside you. The beauty, purity, everything, that is your true nature. But in ignorance we try to go out and grab. She says no, we get kicked back, but we are not learning the lesson. But slowly, life after life, we come to that realization that my search is not wrong. But where I am seeking for, there's something problem with that. I will seek for happiness, beauty, existence, immortality, knowledge, but I should not seek for out there. It is my own true nature. So that turning point is called Vairagya. That really is the beginning of spiritual life. Then you have gone out so far, now you have to make a U-turn and go back. But the good thing is, you are not some miserable sinner. You are the child of God. You are the immortal being that is the Lord of the universe. That's a very, very powerful idea of Vedanta. And what do you have to do? You don't have to get anything. You already have it. All the wrong things that you have gathered, you have to get rid of them. So renunciation is the means to spiritual illumination. All the things that we have tied to ourselves, which hold us down when we try to rise, those are the things to be renounced. So having understood that, then we try to make an effort to renounce. So I would like to explain it in this way, in a little bit modern way. Suppose this is called sadhana. Sadhana means you do something repeatedly, and it's not easy. That's why it's called tapasya. Tapasya means fire, heat. So heat is generated when you're trying to go against nature. It's not going with the flow of the river. You're trying to swim across the current. So, and when that happens, it's hardship. But that is necessary to awaken the power that's within. You require that friction to bring out that light and heat. You require to lift a weight against the gravity to manifest that strength. That's why in spiritual sadhana, it will not be just letting the mind go, but it's about restraining the mind. And once that energy that is contained is not frittered away and in sensual material pleasures, once that restrained, but just restraining is not enough. You have to sublimate and purify that energy so that it goes to a higher level. So if we had wanted to have a better view of providence, we will maybe get a hot air balloon. And you all know that balloon is there. Okay, let's try one. And you have this basket which generates the flame. Okay, in the beginning you have got some ropes that tie you down, and you stand here. So you'll ignite your gas burners. It generates the heat. You are doing your tapasya, you're doing your meditation, you're doing your japa. But you find that the hot air balloon is not rising. Okay, so you look around and say, oh, I've forgotten to untie the ropes. That's why it's not rising. So when you do your spiritual sadhana, sometimes you find the effect of that japa and meditation is not happening. And if you introspect, you find that your mind is tied down to too many things of the world, all these attachments. So one of the tasks is, first you have to cut them. Asanga shastrena. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna, with the sword of non-attachment, mentally connect your association, so attachment to the things of the world. Mentally, it's a mental attachment. You have to say, I am not this, or these things don't belong to me, and therefore mentally be disconnected. Then you find also maybe the balloon is not rising. Then you look up, maybe there's a hole up there, and this gas is going out also. So you'll find that sometimes when you do spiritual sadhana, japa and meditation, you find nothing is happening because the power that you are accumulating is filtering out through somewhere. Sri Ramakrishna gives another example of a farmer who is planting rice. Because he was in Kamarpukur, he could show that. So he will make a paddock and fill it with water. And maybe next morning he wants to plant his rice seedlings. But when he comes there in the morning, so he fills it water, but next morning he comes, he finds it's empty. And he looks in the embankment, some rats had made a hole and the water leaked out. So you'll find in spiritual sadhana also, you from one side you might be generating a spiritual power, but because of your sense enjoyments and all those things, that power is constantly getting dissipated, and therefore you are not able to harness that. Some practical tips are there as we practice our spiritual discipline. So, so here we go. We received the mantra, and now it has to be practiced. You have set your mind to that aspect of God which is your chosen ideal. The north of the compass of your mind is pointed there, locked, synchronized. Whatever happens, you are not going to deviate. And you are going to commit a certain discipline, some time and effort in a regular way. So that discipline is important because you want to awaken that power. Just like you want to go to a gymnasium, you go there once or twice and then you stop going, nothing much will happen. But if you persevere, then you'll find that power, that strength that is rising. Likewise, the capacity of the mind to practice spiritual discipline also grows, its stamina. In the beginning, you might be able to sit for half an hour, then you feel fatigued or this or that. But if you persevere, then just like you persevere going to the gymnasium, after some time lifting that 10 kgs of weight for 20 times, it's not a problem because you have become stronger. So the mind also becomes stronger. But at the same time, one has to be very, very practical. On the first day you go to the gymnasium and out of enthusiasm you take 50 kgs and start doing it, you'll get some injury or something. It's not going to make you strong. So one has to be practical in these things. It's good to have enthusiasm, but you have to be wise on how we do things. And that's why the instructions that's given by the spiritual teacher, they are very, very useful. Follow them strictly, and if you have anything, you have to ask them, but don't try to be over smart yourself and come to some injury. So these are some practical tips are there. So what happens? You sit down for meditation and you have understood that the divine reality, whatever God you are trying to meditate on, dwells in your own heart. Your teacher has given you some definite instructions on how to visualize him, and you will visualize that divine form in your heart, in the lotus of your heart, facing you. Is the embodiment of all divine excellences. Is the light of knowledge that dispels the darkness of ignorance. Is the light of bliss that dispels all sufferings and misery. Is the light of beauty, purity, goodness, strength, fearlessness. And He's there. He's the very incarnation of compassion. He's not some foreigner. He's your own higher self, your nearest and dearest, to whom you can open your heart and talk to and have a conversation, who is ready to forgive you for all your trespassing. Because from your side it might be a big problem, for his side is nothing. Just like a child might make a mistake, he might go and say sorry to mother. Mother is not going to make a big deal about it. She says children will make mistake. That's part of it. And it's her job to take the child and feed and take care of him. So have that personal relationship. That intimate relationship between your chosen ideal and you is slowly to be developed. And when you repeat the mantra, there has to be this spirit of total surrender, full of love and devotion, praying to him for his grace and compassion. And you will find that once that relationship has been developed, then it's natural, because the mind, it's easy to concentrate on whatever you love. And if you can develop that particular relationship with that aspect of God, which is your chosen ideal, then it becomes much easier to focus. When you sit down for the mantra, the mind doesn't go on a world tour, because it really loves to have that connection, and through that he feels the presence within. And in time, that maybe in the beginning it is a visualization and imagination and an image of the deity, and as the teacher says, you visualize him from the foot upwards and all those, then face and whole body, and repeat the mantra. But as the mind becomes purer, that visualization turns into a little bit of experience. You'll have a glimpse of something. Maybe it appears and disappears, but you had a little taste of it, and now you have a hankering that I want to have that experience. So God will then respond. We do our part. Sri Ramakrishna says, you take one step towards God. He is very eager to meet. So he takes 10 towards you. If you said one, that's a little bit of calculation. But somebody wants to meet you, you just take one, he comes 10 steps towards you. Such is the eagerness of God to meet his devotee. It's only we are not very serious about him, so we are playing around here and there, and this drama of this world goes on. So when we meditate or repeat the mantra, sometimes we find that other things are worries, anxiety, examination, or some problem is there. Mind drifts onto those things, or it finds other things interesting and goes out and dwells on those things. So the Holy Mother says very clearly, one repetition of the mantra with full concentration is better than 1,000 repetitions or 1,000,000 repetitions absent-mindedly. Okay, so you have to keep a little watch on the mind. And the mind itself can be your great friend or it can be your worst enemy. Yes, it can be your best friend. It can lead you towards a spiritual realization. It can be your worst enemy. It can entangle you in this world where you will have full of anxiety, worry, frustration, tension, and all those type of things. We need to get the grace of the mind itself. Our scriptures say that God's grace is there all the time. You don't have to go around asking for it. It's like the sun. The sunshine is coming on the earth. It doesn't choose between the clean water and the muddy water. It is impartial. The next one is, so that's called Ishwar Kripa. Kripa means grace. Ishwar means God. Ishwar Kripa is universal. It's there all the time. Sri Ramakrishna would say, the wind of divine grace is blowing all the time. But some trees become transformed. That's a fable, that the Malaya breeze in South India. Some trees will become transformed into sandalwood, others will remain hollow like bamboo. So those who have substance in them, those who are hankering for spiritual realization, they will go and become transformed into something valuable and fragrant like sandalwood. Others, it is there but it's not having that impact. Why? So second component is Guru Kripa. When you hanker for spiritual realization, that same God reaches out to you in a human form. That human form is He only, but appears through this medium, because we are human beings, we can communicate and that power flows to us. That can also be God. And many people who have received the mantra Diksha from the Guru have got the first one, have got the second one. The third one is Atma Kripa, the grace of your own mind. That's the challenging one, because having got it, the mind is complacent, it's lazy, it's procrastinating, it's lost the zeal for it and busy with other things, and it's not able to harness that grace. It has not become useful in that life. So how do we get our own grace, so to say, grace of the own mind? We have to befriend our mind. We have to befriend our mind and make it a companion in our spiritual journey. Just like we talk to other people, we also talk to our own minds, isn't it? We reason, we argue with this, and make a decision, like all those things are happening. So with the help of the scriptures and reading the lives of people who have realized God, that gives some inspiration. And you say, wow, that person was a simple person, not very well educated and this and that. But see how life was transformed through the simple practice of japa and meditation. And for those inspiration, you look at these books. They lived with God, God lived with them. Those books, wonderful books. Ordinary people who came in touch with Sri Ramakrishna. But from the instruction and all those things that were given to him, how they were benefited. So you get that idea. If it could happen to them, it can happen to me also. And that same Ramakrishna, who was present in the physical body then, is verily also present here, and you have received him. So it's possible. That makes it what is called sambhavana, ho sakta hai. It's possible for me also. It gives you a lot of confidence. And then you start making the effort. Okay. So this Atma Kripa, the grace of your mind, how do you get it? So let us study the mind a little bit. Okay. So the mind, right now I am talking to you. A part of my mind is concentrating on the idea that is in my head. I am seeing your response and your attention, and people are nodding their head, they are following and all those things. I am trying to encode that message in a language, in English, and I am speaking that out to you in verses, through stories and this and that. I am trying to communicate to you. There's another part of my mind watching this whole process. It's observing. Did I say sufficiently, or shall I continue this? Shall I change to another topic, like that? So it's watching that mind. Okay, so one is the active mind. And the other mind is there, watching, the observer mind. Okay, and I'm sure you think about it, all of us have that. In some people, that observer mind is more matured and strong and developed. In others, it is not. You'll find that that observer mind in children is not very well developed. So they're doing everything without any thinking. The mother has to be there to supervise them. And then as they grow up, when we say their buddhi has opened up a little bit and they have matured, this is the age of 19 and 20, then they are allowed to have some freedom. They can make all decisions. So that power of discrimination becomes alert. Now, this, when we sit down and do japa and meditation, two things are. One is we're repeating the mantra. The part of the mind should be watching that process where the repetition is happening. If that observer looks aside for a moment, then what happens? Suddenly your mind has taken off. That mantra has been left and it is gone to some other place. Alright? Sometimes we try to drag it back to the mantra. But sometimes it's just good to say, okay, hold on, how did I end up here? And we try to walk that path back. So I'm thinking about this, before that I was thinking about that. I'll tell you, you will be surprised how many intervening thoughts it has been there. But you watch that, at least you are understanding the workings of the mind. Don't be happy, don't be unhappy. But strengthen that power of internal observation. That power of internal observation, that is watching the flow or the repetition of the mantra. Am I getting that across? There's a part of the mind watching the process. Another part is engaged in the repetition of the mantra. If this watchman, so to say, is alert and awake, then he will keep a tight watch and control that your mind doesn't drift onto something else. But if it slips out for some moment, then your mind catches the tail of another thought and another thought and another thought, and before you know it is doing something out there. And you're thinking, my God, 5 minutes have gone and I was meditating well, but out of that maybe a few seconds was on the mantra, 95% was something else. So in the beginning you'll have this wrestling match. You'll try to focus and it will try to take off. You bring it back, and sometimes you sit down and reason with it. Like I said, you have to make a friend of it. So when it has gone to something, you talk to him. Now we were trying to do some meditation. The goal was to realize some divine aspect. What a wonderful thing. That's what we really want. We sat down. I'm not going to sit down there for a whole day. I said I was going to sit for half an hour. Can't you do that much only? 23 and a half hours, we have all the time to do all those things. Nothing is so pressing and important that I have to leave that there. So like this, you reason yourself and your mind will say, okay, that type of cajoling and talking to it until it gets a little taste of it. Once it gets a taste of it, then you don't have to really worry. So this observer mind is very, very important. The other thing is, in meditation japa, we have a repetition of a mantra. So, when does it, because it's a problem everyone has, the mind takes off. You sit down to repeat the mantra so many times and you find that so many times it's taken off and you catch it back. That's a problem that everyone goes through. So, if the watchman is alert, he keeps a tight control. Okay, that's first thing. So, you'll find that through japa and meditation, the power of internal observation, the reflective mind becomes stronger. And it is also very useful in your everyday life. You're a student or a businessman or something. As that mind sharpens up through japa and meditation, you'll find the quality of your decision making and everything in life becomes much better, because it's the same mind. It's not a different mind that you are using for your everyday secular life or another one for your spiritual life. It's the same mind and it will have all these side benefits also. But our goal is the spiritual one. So in one of the ways that I can suggest is to harmonize your repetition of the mantra with your breath. Okay? So normally you will try to breathe very slowly. Focus on your breath and feel it's going. As your concentration or you become calmer, it becomes deeper and deeper. Okay, just follow on that. And then you try to repeat the mantra in rhythm with the breath. Now, with one breath, you might repeat the mantra twice or once or 3 times. It's up to you how fast. But you sort of strike a rhythm into it. So I'm repeating the mantra once, twice, thrice. So here say once, twice, thrice, and then I come down, 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 up, down, down, down. Because the breath and the mind are somehow interrelated. You can take advantage of this rhythm, internal rhythm, and try to synchronize it, so to say, with the mental one. And that point where the takeoff point that happens is somewhere in the junctions. So the mind repeats and then comes there, and before it latches on to the beginning of the next mantra, that way another thought comes, and then it takes you out there. So if you are alert around this point, then you will find that as the mantra ends in the repetition mentally, you have caught the head of the mantra Om again. And you will find that it will prevent you drifting off the track. So part of the mind, are you getting the idea? So the breath is there, it's the internal rhythm that is there. You want to synchronize your thought repetition of the mantra with that. And depending on the length of the mantra or how slowly you want to repeat it, you can focus. Let's see how the mantra arises in your mind and how it develops and how it settles in. And just keep a tight watch, and then again I should catch it. And it forms a beautiful loop. And that gives you that internal beautiful peace. And that's where the medicine really is working. You know, you go to the gymnasium, you don't do things erratically. You try to have a rhythm, slowly but systematically, slowly. And you get into that rhythm. After some time, the mind settles into that rhythm. And it remains in that loop. You call it surfing the wave of the breath. Just like somebody is surfing the waves and he remains on the top. Waves is traveling, but he's always remaining on top of the wave. Likewise, this breath is flowing, but because of that mental alertness of the person's physical alertness is there, he's able to hold on the top of the wave, and the wave is carrying him away. So as the breath energy takes, he holds on to that mantra. That's a surfboard, so to say, but it requires a degree of alertness. Otherwise, he'll just fall into the water. And if he holds on to that, that breath will carry him along. Okay, so that is something that you can try out, and you'll find that once you get in the rhythm, then you can be there for 15 minutes or half an hour, 1 hour. When you come out of it, you feel that inner peace and some connection deeper in there. It will not happen that unless you are a very advanced spiritual aspirant, 1 or 2 repetitions of the mantra and you get your power awakened, like Swami Brahmananda or Swami Vivekananda. But whatever it is, whether it's 1 time or 1,000,000 times, the power is inside, the divine is there. Mantra purifies the body, it purifies the mind. That is something there. Okay. But we have to do the exercise. That exercise manifests that power. The best time to do is morning and evening. These would be the instructions given so many times by Swamijis. So before finishing, I'm coming to the end of it. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this one. Okay, you would be interested in this one. So what is happening, what we are trying to do? I mentioned that this world is a world of vibrations and frequencies. Here is the grosser world, the physical world, then the subtle world, and finite. In one of the talks, Swami Vivekananda says, look at this atmosphere. Here is dense on the surface of the world, it becomes finite until it goes so high that it becomes space where there is no air particles. Where it is, we can't really define. But this atmosphere we have defined as this is ionosphere, this stratosphere, this megasphere, whatever sphere. It's not that there are so many lines there, but for our conversation, we have said so many kilometers is this particular band. So whatever this world is there, the manifestation, we call this the physical world or the mental world or spiritual world. Actually, there are no sort of lines like that. It's one continuity where at the lower end, it's a very gross world of lower vibrations, so to say. It becomes finite at the highest end. Highest means not physically in space, but means higher and higher frequencies, so to say, higher planes of existence. The 7 lokas, Bhur, whatever, Brahma Loka, and then it goes into space, which is absolute Brahman, which is pure space, in which everything is contained. So this is the world. That upper end is called Spirit or God or Atman or Brahman. And that is here and now. But we are locked into a physical plane. What we are trying to do through japa and meditation is to train this mind. First, detach it from the things that is attached to the world and give it a spiritual turn. Take help of these techniques of japa and meditation. Infuse our energy and vitality into this, and what happens, this mind like that hot air balloon begins to rise. It becomes finer and finer and finer. As it becomes finer, like the TV station, it changes its frequency. This world will disappear from you and the other world will appear to you. And as it goes higher and higher, the experiences will change. Sri Ramakrishna is a perfect example of what happens every day. Up 10 times he's going up and down, shuttling back and forth, even trying to drag his mind down by creating some physical desires like I'll have a water or I'll eat something, because his natural tendency is to merge in the absolute. Ours is opposite. We are trying to rise, he's trying to come down. But that's what makes him incarnation of God. And not only coming down, he wants to reach us down and lift us up also. He puts his hand down. Those who can grab his finger can be lifted up. So this is the mystery or the beautiful thing about what Vedanta and Hinduism gives. All the philosophy of Vedanta is all very nice, and you can read them and have a wonderful conceptual understanding of the worlds. But I can talk to you about honey all day. You also can give a nice talk afterwards and describe. But tasting the honey is another thing. We can read all about the scriptures about Atman, Brahman and everything. But at some point you should say, I want to have that experience. That is when the oyster comes to the surface. Find some auspicious minute or moment. A spiritual teacher comes. He gives you that drop of that water. And then it's up to you to dive deep and fashion that beautiful pearl of self-realization, God-realization. That is what japa and meditation and spiritual disciplines are all about. In that, we take one step. God Himself, who is the Lord of the universe, when we are hungry for that knowledge and realization, He reaches out. And so what happens at the time of realization? This particular Guru who was so gracious on you, who gave the mantra, Sri Ramakrishna says, at the moment of realization, at that juncture, one sees the Guru appears and your chosen ideal also appears. And the Guru says, this is your chosen ideal. Then what happens to the Guru? The Guru merges into the chosen ideal. Actually, the two are not different, but he appears to us through the human form and lifts us up out of this world. This is all the theory part of it. The rest is to be experienced by the practice of it. So I hope I've been able to share some ideas about what is a mantra, what's the source and power of the mantra, where you should get it from in an authentic way, how you should practice the sadhana japa, a few tips about what you should do and what you should not do. Be alert about things that are tying us down into this world. Be alert about where the energy, the power that you are generating through your sadhana is getting frittered away. Block those channels and let this sublimation of the mind happen. As the mind rises to higher and higher planes, the worlds of the spiritual world will open up to you. And the rest is about merging yourself in that supreme. God Himself comes down in the human form as an avatar or as your Guru to reach out to us, to help us in this spiritual reunion of the Jiva with the Paramatman. May Sri Ramakrishna bless us, give us the inspiration and the energy and the guidance, so that in this life itself we can achieve that supreme culmination of life. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat.
What a beautiful lecture. It was a very sublime and yet tremendously practical exposition of this, how power of mantra works in us. It is important to feel this. It is very important to practice it. It is, as he was mentioning at the end, that there is this understanding, but understanding, lecturing and all that, that has the limitations that you describe honey. That doesn't mean you taste the honey. The two things are very different. So he pointed out so well all these things, and he was speaking with such spontaneity. It was an extempore, but look at it, that how much preparation there has been done within for years to get all these thoughts so well synchronized and to present it in such a short time. So, Swamiji, Tadananda ji, many thanks for this beautiful discourse, and hope we will get to hear more from you sometimes. He is leaving tomorrow for Boston. So in this trip, this is the only lecture that we got, but maybe some other time. So thank you for coming, thank you for this talk, and thank you friends for coming for this talk. And the meeting concludes here.
Closing prayer?
Yes, closing prayer, yeah. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists. Wait. It is the prayer stopped in between on the screen, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahur Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus. Lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.